Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get yourself a nice 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. For today's video, we are looking at Stonjourner VMAX. I'm pretty hyped on this archetype, even though it is quite simple. I think it's simple but effective. It's got good type coverage. As a tanking Pokemon, it's got a great weakness in Grass, which doesn't seem to be the most powerful archetype right now in Standard. You hit for a good type coverage against Snorlax VMAX, which I just did a video on, and also Pikarom, which is probably coming back into the format in some way, and if Morpeko V sees a bit of play, you get a bit of help there as well. So good type coverage to bear in mind, especially for a tank, and we have some decent options available to him, because he's just a big wall, basically. So let's jump into that basic concept, and that is that it's just obvious that this card is going to work towards a tanking archetype. You have 330 base hit points, which is naturally huge, and you have your first attack on the VMAX, which can be a self-healing, self-accelerating option, which is really cool, because it means if you've had some slower turns, your opponent started to poke into your guys, you can still undo that damage whilst also getting attachments in addition to everything else you have. You know, like you can end your turn on additional attachments that work you towards your own attacks. So it's a really nice healing option that I think is excellent on the card. I think it's kind of underappreciated how strong that first attack can be from the VMAX, because it means that even when you're having slow turns and you're not having the optimal setup, you're at least able to undo some of the pressure your opponents put on your guy and sort of set them back a turn, really, and put yourself back in good shape to tank once again on future turns with that Stonjourner, which is pretty sweet overall. I also think there's a card that is getting a lot stronger in this format, and it's the Zygarde from Unified Minds. This card is really underappreciated, and that's because it was brought out in Unified Minds where we had terrible Ball Search. It's a very strong basic, and in a deck like this where you have enough board space to put multiple down, you can have really good early pressure from Zygarde. Essentially, it's like an overpowered version of Baby Yveltal, that card that was used so often in Yveltal decks, and sometimes even in non-Yveltal decks, he was kind of just played as like a one-attachment attacker just for extra energy acceleration, whilst also putting pressure on the opponent's stuff. So we're sort of incorporating that in the list. The Zygarde can offer early pressure pokes to set up higher hit point Pokemon like tag teams, or things turning into like VMAXs and stuff. Or you can just use it to be early pressure knockouts against people. You can knock out Jirachis, evolving basics and such. So this Zygarde is really excellent pressure. It should also be noted that the basic Stonjourner also has a 1 energy attachment attack that can do 40 for 1, and both Zygarde and Stonjourner V, of course, can be buffed by Diancie Prism Star. So we can try and push this to also knock out things like Jirachi with the help of Martial Arts Dojo. So this fighting deck actually has good poke pressure, and then those pokes add up towards Stonjourner's later attacks, which should be pretty much clearing through whatever is in your opponent's active most of the time with the damage modifiers we have available. So let's jump into the Pokemon counts. We'll start off with a mini Jirachi package. You know I love me some Jirachi in this format. Quick Ball just makes it really reasonable to even have a low count of Jirachi, just because you can Quick Ball at any time in the game, get it down, and you know that when you're using things like Mallow&Lana in tanking lists, you can really take advantage of that, because you can go back into Stellar Wish and grab more pieces along the way. If some of your like early Zygardes do get knocked out, you can go straight into that Jirachi and start getting more value for consistency. Overall, I just really do rate Jirachi in the format when you have good basic Ball Search around. So you all know what he's all about at this point. We do have 4 of that baby Zygarde. Let me refresh your memories of what he does. 90 hit points, cellular companions. As long as this Pokemon's on the bench, your Zygardes and Zygarde GXs do 20 more to your opponent's active Pokemon. And this is stackable, of course. It's basically like its own version of a Diancie Prism on itself. So when this Zygarde's active, you have Diancie Prism and then other Zygardes on your bench. And then you have that Boost Fang attack, which does 20 base, and you get to attach a fighting energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. So the idea is here, Zygardes are doing early pressure pokes, whilst also keeping the Stonjourner nice and safe on the bench, whilst also attaching to him, which is pretty sweet. Obviously, Stonjourner is a V Pokemon, so not easily gusted up. It has to be like Customs or Ninetales and such. So hopefully Zygarde is protecting that sort of thing. and is getting either early knockouts on those basics or early pressure damage-wise to help move towards max rockfall later on, which we'll get onto in a second. We're playing one copy of Marshadow Machamp because obviously Mallow&Lana has good synergy here. Guzma&Hala has great synergy in this deck with a couple of the tools that we play, as well as trying to find early martial arts dojo for our early damage output. So playing one tag team is nice just to have additional synergy with the tag call package. And it makes Pokemon communication more live, for example. And at the same time, this has a different weakness to Stonjourner and offers a GX attack that we otherwise don't have available to us. Now, it is very rare you'll get the full value from Acme of Heroism. But if things have been going poorly and you've not been able to get enough attachments towards max rockfall and such, the Zygarde can at least be powering up this easy basic, so you can start using things like Revenge and move into these higher damage output attacks later on. So I haven't attacked much with the Marshchamp, but I've still found him useful just for, like I said, making comms more live, being an extra option, especially like a late game card, because it's much more easy to get him rolling and not worry about things like reset stamp, whereas if you were to put down a Stonjourner V late game and then you just get stamped, you're then left with just the V and you find it more difficult to find the VMAX and getting those final attacks rolling, whereas the Marshchamp, it's all there for you. So I really think he's a reasonable card just to have as a 1 count. He's seemed to put in enough work right now. We have that Diancie Prism, obvious for fighting Pokemon just for damage buff. We have Phione in here as well, just to try and get rid of some dolls that can be in the active for all sorts of archetypes. It can also move things like Zamazenta, which can also be a little bit annoying for us. So that's another reason why the Marshchamp is in here as an attacker against Zamazenta exactly, which I should have mentioned earlier. So yeah, Phione also helps out moving those things out of the way. At the moment, I only have Phione and Great Catchers, so we don't have ideal means of gusting in this list, but the Phione certainly can help. We have 2 Dedenne GX just for some hand refresh, especially good when you can't support her anymore. Turn 1 going first. It gives us better access to multiple Zygarde and Stonjourner and such, which is always good. And then we have a 3-3 line of our main attacker, which is the Stonjourner V and VMAX. Like I said, the basic has guard press, which is nice for keeping your guy alive, whilst also putting some early counters on the board. But the VMAX is where his 2 attacks are super impressive. Stone Gift, you can attach a fighting energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon, then heal 120 damage from it. Usually, you just do this on yourself to help move towards that max rockfall for the future turn, whilst also undoing some damage that you've taken earlier on in the game. So that's definitely nice. It can undo a lot of pressure from your opponents and keep yourself nice and healthy so that you can be in a good position to start using max rockfall, which does 200 damage. It may not seem like a lot, but we have the modifiers of Diancie Prism Star. We also have that martial arts dojo as well, which is pretty decent. So we can push to 230, and when we're behind, that goes even higher. So I think that's really awesome, and it also highlights the need for us to sometimes have little pressure pokes from things like Zygarde, and even just using that Stonjourner V. So hopefully these little prods make a lot more sense now that you can see that Max Rockfall does fall slightly short of the damage that we need against certain attackers. Good enough to deal with a lot of like Stage 1 and basic GX Pokemon and basic V Pokemon, including Zacian, which is really important. But it does fall short of tag team knockouts, which is why the Zygarde can come in to get some extra little prods in here and there, which is nice. Onto the trainers, it's quite simplistic really. It's got that mini tactical package going on, a couple of great catchers, switches and boards to work on our Jirachi, comms and quick balls to access our Pokemon. We have 1 copy of the new Giant Charm to give our Stonjourner an additional 30 hit points, which can be, again, just working more towards this style when you're undoing damage with our supporters and Stonjourner's attack itself. It's nice to have that extra bit of hit points there as well. But I'm also playing 1 Karate Belt, which is another really cool option in here. Another reason why it's great to have something like Zygarde, which is quite squishy in the active. You can use those as sacrificial lambs, and sometimes you can surprise your opponent with an attachment plus Karate Belt combo, and they may not be expecting a max fall, and you can sort of tempo out on them quite nicely. So this can sometimes surprise people, especially when you have the Guzma&Hala available to you. You can try and access those pieces all at once. And then we do have 3 copies of that Martial Arts Dojo. I think it really helps the early pressure of this deck. Trying to, well, basically this can be like 1 less Zygarde that you need in play for early pressure pokes. And it's obviously fantastic when you start to fall behind you get that extra 40 damage buff as well. So that really does push our numbers in a great way, really. So again, it's definitely a great stadium that this archetype can take advantage of. On to supporters. Shouldn't be a surprise that we have these tag team cards in here. The Guzma&Hala can get us our one-of tools. It can also get the Dojo that we have going on. Cynthia to try and recover some supporters. Usually this is looking towards the Mallow&Lana and the Marnie, which we play 2 counts of each. Mallow&Lana, in addition to the actual attack from Stonjourner for healing, is usually pretty good. And we also have those Marnies for some hand disruption, whilst also refreshing our hand in a reasonable fashion, which is always pretty decent. But as we know, Professor's Research is a silly good card. It gives us discard synergy for getting fighting energies in the discard pile for our Zygarde early, which is also good to note. Something also that I should have noted about the Quick Ball. Also, some of these, like Guzma&Halas and Cynthia can also do a similar role here of being discard synergy. So we have a decent amount of discard synergy for that Zygarde pressure early on to get not only an energy attached, but also one in the bin for us to attach via the attack. So definitely stuff to bear in mind. And of course, Professor's Research just gives us a big dig to try and find all of our cards, which is sweet in general. Onto the energy, we have that 1 unit energy to work off of the Guzma&Hala, but we still want to have a very high count of basic fightings to, again, have access for both hand and discard. It's always nice to have excess ones of these floating around in your hand, just in case you want to try and use that Stone Gift attack from the VMAX to do some healing, rather than going down any other route. So I always like having that option of having not just your manual attachment for turn, but also that excess one in hand to do healing when need be. So there is the full list. It's also in the description as always, but just something to bear in mind if you wanted to take a peek. And for tech options, again, the list I've got is quite simplistic right now. You could try and tech it out a little bit more with some other bench-sitting style Pokemon. Oranguru is a nice card for protecting some pieces that we've got going on here. Protecting your like great catches and such. Protecting sometimes even like other Mallow&Lanas on future turns where you need to make pushes with your hand for like Magnolia and stuff. Absol is just an annoying card to deal with for opposing Jirachi engines, which is cool. But I think the biggest thing that may surprise some people is that we're not full-on Healy. We're quite a tempo-based build right now, trying to get additional attachments here and there around the board and getting pressure prods. But there can certainly be builds that are going to be more defensive-based that try and have a very thick line of in DDV in their lists to just undo even more damage throughout the game. I certainly think that that's an alternate option, and it's another one that I might have to profile at some point later down the line. But for now, I'm preferring the more aggressive route here. Zebstrika is an option. Although we don't have any real synergy, you could think about just having like a 1-1 or 2-2 line of the Zebra in the list, just to give yourself a bit of leeway, a bit of extra draw potential. It can help you out against reset stamps, Marnies, just handlock combos from Mewtwo and stuff. I think those things could be a little bit awkward, and the Zygardes take up spaces early, but if you can sort of like sack them off in those early turns, you actually just free up a good amount of bench space. The only real things that stick on board is like 1 Jirachi, 1 Diancie, and then you have room for your attackers. So there's certainly room for like a 1-1 line of a stage 1 for draw potential, which is something to bear in mind. For a couple of items, I think Giant Bomb could also fulfill a similar role as using Zygarde for pressure prods. These Giant Bombs could be very interesting. And force your opponent to play awkwardly around you, sometimes buy yourself extra turns, or playing into Stone Gift as well. If they just want to not activate the bomb, they just hit you for a small amount, and then you can just undo that damage with Stone Gift and send it back to them. It can try and buy you turns here and there, or just force gusting on certain turns, which I think is something that is potentially worth exploring, but right now I think it's a little bit too niche, and we already have some very good tools that we might want to have on our Stonjourner at any one time. And then custom catches are definitely something I'm considering. I think this deck is sort of teetering on the edge of having space for customs and not. You can try and make some harsh cuts here and there in order to upgrade your great catches to customs. I think if you do play customs, you definitely want the Oranguru in your list. So it's like you're having to find 3 spaces in the deck rather than just the 2 when you straight swap out those greats, put in 2 customs, then you got to find 3 spaces for 2 more customs, and then the Oranguru to support that, because we are, at the end of the day, a heavy Professor's Research and Dedenne-based engine. But something that you might have in mind is that you might want to upgrade your gusting effects overall. For that matchup overview, I mentioned gusting effects could really be improved, and that's because we have a couple of awkward matchups just because we don't have great gusting. There are some like non-GX decks, like Baby Charizard. There's also Morpeko. These sorts of things are difficult to act for us just for the fact that we have great catches in Phione only, and they can sort of stack up a lot of pressure against you. Obviously, Morpeko keeps hitting and running, but Charizard can just sort of bide its time, use a bunch of Roaring Resolves, and then come over the top of your 360 hit points, which can sometimes be really rough because it's hard for you to come back from that. Because, especially against like a Charizard, where the Zygarde is like never doing enough, and like pressure pokes are really terrible against one prize Pokemon. Because you want to just clear those out of the way with the Stonjourner instead. But as soon as they are a one-prize deck that can go over the top of Stonjourner, it's going to become a problem. That's also why the Greens, Blounds, and the Bird Blounds I've put as bad matchups. Also, of course, these Blound decks might also start becoming Jirachi Lucky Egg-based. I think, you know, Bird and Green Blounds will play Lucky Eggs as well, of course, but I think potentially the most popular Blound list is going to be Jirachi-based these days. Florgastol is also going to be very awkward, of course. We have that Phione, but not much else. Rillaboom is going to hit you for weakness with their Egg Rowlet, so that's going to be pretty rough. And I also think right now we don't have great outs to Mally Mew 3 with their hand-locking stuff. I think really the only good news out of that handlock is that you can undo a lot of their damage if they are trying to go heavily down the Trevnoir route. Even if you don't draw into many supporters or much else, all you need is energy to like Stone Gift and sort of buy yourself another turn to try and get into good shape, and it basically buys you more top decks to stay in the game, which is definitely something that could be helpful for you, which is cool. I do think that if we had more draw power, we would have a more solid matchup against the Mally Mew 3 deck, which I think is one that we do certainly need to keep in mind. For the closing thoughts, this build, I like the option of tempo. It's just how I play as a player myself, but I'm sure there will be more people out there who want to go even more defensive and turn this into almost like a stalling archetype in terms of the amount of reduction that you can do. With Stone Gift and a bunch of Indeedee, you can be reducing, you know, like 200 damage coming into you, which is really insane every turn, and it really forces the opponent to spend a lot of resources to get through any one Stonjourner in any game. So although this deck is trying to be conventional in terms of racing the opponents, even though we're sort of kickstarting the race just with early one prizes, and then we're just trying to make that one Stonjourner like go the distance a lot of the time. That's really how I foresee this build playing, but I'm sure other people will try and just like build one wall that never goes down, essentially, which could also be an interesting shout, and again, something worth exploring for sure. Also, I think the type coverage is going to be one of the things holding Stonjourner up. It might just be in this spot where it's a sort of counter-style archetype, where if Pikarom and Snorlax are big presences in the meta, it can certainly have a place. But I think in general it will sort of be kept down a little bit by the Baby Blound pressure and by the fact that Mewtwo naturally would have a decent time against this, just with its hand-locking presence, and the fact that we currently aren't playing much in the way of consistency draw Pokemon. So you certainly could think of improving that with things like the Zebstrika or even the new Cincino. You could think about adding those into the list. But yeah, that is my first draft of Stonjourner. I've had a handful of games with this deck so far, and I've actually been pretty pleased with the results. I think it's really decent, to be fair. I like that its damage output is good enough to deal with Zacians, which is a huge deal. And like I said, don't underestimate that early pressure from those Zygarde. They actually do a good job for this deck, whilst also accelerating. Baby Yveltal was like one of my favorite cards in the era where it was strong, and getting one back it's kind of more akin to maybe something like the Power Heater attack from the Volk, because as you get more things down, the attack gets stronger, and you all know how good Baby Volk was. I'm not going to speculate that this Zygarde's as good as Baby Volk, of course, that would just be lying to you guys, but the same intent is there. It's helping you set up knockouts whilst also getting acceleration on your dudes, and yeah, in general, that's just a tried and trusted combo that is always good in formats. So let me know what you guys think of this Stonjourner build. Have you been building it differently? I'll hear it all down below. Am I overhyping this archetype in general? Get involved in the discussion, and I'll see you guys in another video tomorrow. Cheers.